Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday, everyone. This is Barberstrike95. I hope you're all having a good day here today. We're here in the beautiful state of Indiana, my home state. Today, we're doing part 26 of our Exploring America's National Park series, and we're going to visit Kentucky's very own Mammoth Cave National Park, the world's most impressive cave system. Now, if you guys don't know about Mammoth Cave National Park, this is actually the closest national park to where I live, because it's all the way down in Bowling Green, Kentucky, near Bowling Green. And from where I live, I'm only just about an hour and a half drive from, about an hour and a half to 2 hour drive down to Mammoth Cave National Park, making it the closest national park to where I live. Yeah, about an hour and a half away from Mammoth Cave, so it's the closest one to where I live, of course. So before we get started, I do want to say hello to everyone here, the lurkers and the mods. I hope you're all doing a good day. I see you down there, Super Typhon, alongside me, of course. I hope you're all doing well, all the lurkers. I hope you enjoyed your morning. We had a really nice stream yesterday, of course. We got to talk about the my trip, which was really exciting. The VODs in it is on the channel. So our national park will take us through to Mammoth Cave. So here's our flight plan for this morning's trip down into Mammoth Cave. Should be a pretty simple flight plan. No super high altitudes for this one. We start here in Monroe County Airport, home in Bloomington. We're going to go down through the Bloomington, of course. We're going to go through Monroe State Forest, then fly across into Brown County State Park. Little Smokies here in Brown County. They call it the Little Smokies. Hear about the locals. Then once we go down here, we'll fly over around my home area, of course. We fly through near my home area. Then we go fly into downtown Louisville and fly over downtown Louisville for a bit. Get near Churchill Downs, and then we'll make our way to our first stop here at 73 Kilo Yankee at Brooks Field for a nice little stoll landing here in Louisville. Then from there, our second leg will take us through near Fort Knox, so we have a view of the military fort. Then from there, we'll head down south through Elizabethtown. We go to Cave City, and then we'll arrive here at Mammoth Cave National Park. So we'll make a bush landing here right near the national park entrance. This right here is the lodge and stuff. We should land near some of the entrances, and we'll fly around the local area for a bit. Take some pictures of the local scenery around here, and then we'll make our way down to Bowling Green, Kentucky. And then we'll make our way into Bowling Green. Then we'll make our way to Bowling Green Airport to wrap up the flight. And we'll make our way to Bowling Green, Kentucky for the last stop. So that's going to be the last leg of the trip. So we only have 2 legs for this one, and it's a relatively shorter national park flight. So this would be relatively short, so should be nice to go. So we're taking this in Savage Norton for today. We will only have 1 for this one. We'll get near the park entrance, and then we'll fly around this local area. So here we go. Battery on. ECU. Main on. Autopilot arm on. So if you guys don't know about Bloomington, Indiana, of course, in Bloomington, it's home of Indiana University. This is the flagship campus is in Bloomington. It's a great college town. Lots of things to do in Bloomington, of course. Bloomington is a city that is really, really nice. It's one of the nicer places in the state. Great college town, like I said. It's got some really neat architecture, of course. The architecture's nice. It's the location of the 1979 movie Breaking Away, which was an Academy Award-winning movie. And of course, there are plenty of people from Bloomington that are from here. David Anspaugh, who directed both Hoosiers and Rudy, two very famous sports films in the state of Indiana. You also have, of course, Edition, Wilson V. Eagleson, decorated member of the Tuskegee Airmen, raised here in Bloomington, of course. You have Colin E. Woolman, who is actually the founder of Delta Airlines. He's from Bloomington, so Delta Airlines is found here in Bloomington. And another very famous person is David Lee Roth, who has been the lead singer of Van Halen. So yeah, Bloomington's got some pretty famous people here in Indiana's big college town. And of course, the major attraction here is obviously the university, IU, the Hoosiers. The Hoosiers are a big part of Indiana, not just for academics, but for sports, because of course, IU basketball is a big deal. The Indiana Hoosiers are very famous, especially in both basketball, which they've been 5-time national champions in basketball, of course. That's Indiana's most historic program. And unbelievably, nowadays, in recent memory, it's Indiana football that's been the big deal here. Oh, no worries, Typhon, about your monitor. No worries. No worries. That's fine. I'm not going to go super fast with this one. I'm going to be around 110, 105, 110. If you take the extra, you keep up with me, no problem. So, but in recent years, it's now Indiana football that's been the bigger deal here in the state, thanks to the fact IU football won the national championship this past year, which I still can't believe is even real. So the altitude for this leg is going to be, now the most altitude is 2,500 feet. So here we go. So, but yeah. And yes, IU football won a national championship, which I still can't believe even existed. Of all the football programs to win a national championship, it had to be Indiana football. I know it's crazy as it sounds. So this is Indiana University to our left. IU, Indiana. Hoosiers? Hoosiers? So, Here we go. There's Super Typhon. So we're entering into Morgan Monroe State Forest here in Bloomington. Very neat little area, of course. Now we all know Indiana's kind of a flat state, but this area around here is among the hillier parts of Indiana. Is the southern part is considered to be more hilly, and this part is probably the more hilly side of Indiana. So we enter into Monroe State Forest, which is about 24,000 acres. It's the second largest state forest here in the state. The only one bigger, of course, is Clark State Forest, which is technically the only one bigger is Harrison Crawford Forest and Clark State Forest. The only one bigger is Clark State Forest, which is down further south, of course. Which is we'll see here. But really cool place though. Monroe State Forest is really nice. Great place to have. It features the 59 miles non-stop trail, lots of mountain bike stuff, and it's a really nice little piece of forestry in here in Indiana. You can find a lot. It's also a good place for hunting, for deer, foxes, grouse, woodcocks, and raccoons, and especially turkeys too. Really nice little state forest here in the state of Indiana. Really nice area, of course. So you can see some beautiful lakes and stuff here in the state of Indiana, of course. So we'll talk a little bit briefly about Mammoth Cave National Park once we turn a bit left. We'll get started with Mammoth Cave National Park. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the slides. So this is Mammoth Cave National Park. Now, if you guys don't know about Mammoth Cave, this is a national park in south central Kentucky, and it encompasses portions of Mammoth Cave, the longest known cave system in the world. The park's 52,000 acres are located primarily in the Edmonson County, Kentucky, and the Green River runs through the park. The cave system has been formerly known as the Mammoth Flint Ridge Cave System since 1972, when a connection between Mammoth Cave and the even longer system under Flint Ridge to the north. As of 2025, more than 426 miles of passageway have been surveyed in this area, which is 1.5 times longer than the second longest cave system in the world, Mexico's Oxbalham underwater cave. Which is pretty crazy to think about it. Just how long this system is. Now, the park itself was established back in July 1st, 1941, after oft-contentious eminent domain proceedings, whose consequences still affect the region. It was a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1981, an International Box Bear Reserve in 1990, and an International Dark Sky Park in 2021. But yeah, this is a very interesting national park. Mammoth Cave, I mean, is a really neat area to explore. For a lot of people liking caves, this is probably the Cave National Park. Huge park. In 2024, 747,000 people visited Mammoth Cave National Park in 2024. And soon, when it reaches 2026, it would be officially 85 years old. It was our 85-year anniversary for Mammoth Cave. Now, one very interesting thing about Mammoth Cave National Park that needs to be discussed is geology, and this is a big part of what makes Mammoth Cave what it is. Mammoth Cave developed in the thick Mississippian age limestone that is capped by layers of sandstone, which has made the system remarkably stable. And it is known to include over 400 miles of passageway. And new discoveries and connections add several miles to this figure each and every year. A lot of the rock found in this area was dated back to sedimentary rock, and with fossils that showed that Kentucky was once part of an ancient sea. The upper sandstone member is known as the Big Clifty Sandstone, Then sparse layers of limestone intersped with the sandstone to create a mid zone. And basically, how the layers work is they're in the stratigraphy column. Beneath the Big Clifty, increasing over depths, are the Gherkin Formation, which is between the St. Genevieve limestone and most recently the St. Louis limestone. Water started to reach the Gherkin stone around 10 million years ago, while the upper areas of the cave formed around 3.2 million years ago. The large main cave seen in the tour is located at the bottom of the Gherkin Formation on the bottom, and the top, and of course St. Genevieve Formation. Each of the layers of limestone divide further into named geological units and subunits, relating to the stratigraphy of the caves surveyed by explorers. This makes it possible to produce maps throughout the cave, without the necessary of test wells and core samples. Pretty interesting stuff here of the geology, but learning about the geology of this park is really interesting to learn about, especially if you're a geologist and that's your career field. This is a great place for geology. So to our right is Yellowwood State Forest here, and then of course we're going to be entering into Brown County. Now, Brown County State Park is a really fascinating little park. It's actually by far the largest of the 24 state parks in Indiana. It's 15,000 acres, which actually makes it one of the larger U.S. state parks in the country. Yeah, Brown County is actually huge. To put that in perspective, the next biggest state park is Versailles State Park in Ripley, which is only about 6,000 acres, so it's over twice as big, 2.5 times bigger. But Brown County is a very cool national state park. 1.2 million visitors visit the state park annually, and it's opened back in 1929 and dedicated in 1932 as a memorial to Ken Hubbard, who was a frequent visitor to Nashville, Indiana, and the surrounding woods. And as a result, the park is well known for its scenic views of the hills of southern Indiana, as well as its autumn colors too. And this is a great place for recreation. Cabins, you have trails for hiking, biking, horseback riding, fishing, and more. Plenty of things to do, tons of activities, of course. As well, this is a great park, great state park, lots of things to do. And of course, neat little park. I wanted to visit Brown County at some point this year. I want to visit Brown County and explore this park. It's a beautiful little state park. You can see some of the hills here in Brown County, Indiana. Beautiful little park. But yeah, beautiful little state park. You can see some of the hills in Indiana. Like I said, Indiana's not very hilly, but this part is. So we'll get through here. Really neat little park. Nashville is a very popular tourist destination. It's also got an art colony too. But neat little area. Brown County. Neat little state park here in the States. So we're going to continue on this direction for another 163 nautical miles. We'll stay in this area for a bit. And we'll make our way to Louisville, Kentucky, of course. The biggest city in Kentucky, of course. So we'll be heading down my neck of the woods. So plenty of stuff to talk about. So for next week's content, of course, on the channel, obviously, our next national park in the series after Mammoth Cave will be a really interesting national park in one of the most underrated parks in the country, Big Bend National Park in Texas. It's Southwest Texas. Um, One of the most underrated national parks. Some of the scenery in Big Bend is absolutely insane. Um, I have plenty of slides, but Big Bend is one of the most unique parks. It has everything: rivers, mountains, canyons, valleys, amazing hiking opportunities here. Like Big Bend has basically everything you would want in a national park. Yet a lot of people kind of overlook it, despite the fact that this park has got so much to offer. So we're gonna do some flying here. So that's going to be next Sunday, of course. Looking forward to showing you guys Big Bend. So we'll be entering into this area very shortly. So that's going to be next Sunday. So I'll let you guys know about that. Now, of course, other bits of stuff going on, other bits of news and stuff, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, Espanyol lost, and oh my goodness, the Toffees are gonna win, 2-1 Everton. Yes, Everton, Everton, we're forever Everton. The Toffees are going to win. The Toffees are going to win. Another win for the mighty Everton Football Club. That's another win. It's a mighty win for Everton. So let's go Toffees. But yeah, I don't have as many slides for Mammoth Cave National Park as some of the other ones, of course. So Everton are doing well. Burnley and Aston Villa somehow drawing. Burnley is Villa's going to could drop points against Burnley. That's not good. Then Serie A's got Cremonese and Pisa 2-0. 2-0 over Pisa FC. In other sports, of course, basketball, the NBA playoffs happened again last night. The Cavs beat the Pistons for the first time in the series, and the Thunder still dominate the Lakers. Yikes. Yeah, it looks like the Thunder are going to sweep their way across the Lakers. Because, yeah, apparently the Thunder, apparently AJ Mitchell cannot be stopped. Shea, I mean, they're just clearly the better team. The Lakers just didn't do well. And then the NHL playoffs, the Flyers and the Hurricanes have just beaten the Poro Flyers, and that basically ends the Flyers season. The Hurricanes just swept the Philadelphia Flyers yesterday, and the Wild took Game 3 of the series 5-1 over the Avalanche. Complete domination for the Minnesota Wild for that one. Big time wins for those, of course. So, So here we go. So as we fly down to Louisville and such, and we make our way down into Louisville, one of the major things I do want to talk about, of course, being for next Sunday, of course, next Saturday is going to be Australia World Update flight. We're going to do something in Queensland. Then we fly around the Gold Coast, and then we make our way to Brisbane. So really cool stuff. I'm looking forward to Saturday stream, obviously. So let's go ahead and make our way down over to. We're just about 157 nautical miles from our final stop. So we're going to continue going on forward into this series. Now, the one thing interesting about Mammoth Cave National Park is to visit the park. So in order to visit Mammoth Cave National Park, the National Park offers several cave tours for visitors. Some notable features, such as Granite Avenue, Frozen Niagara, and Fat Man's Misery, can be seen on live tours from 1 to 6 hours length. 2 tours lit by only visitor-carried paraffin lamps are popular alternatives to the electric-lit routes. Several wild tours venture away from the development parts of the cave into the muddy crawls and dusty tunnels. The Echo River Tour, one of the cave's most famous attractions, took visitors on a boat ride along the underground river, but it was discontinued for logistical and environmental reasons in the early 1990s. The Mammoth Cave headquarters and visitor center is located on Mammoth Cave Parkway, and it can be accessed directly from I-65 on exit 48. And it connects with Kentucky Route 70 from the north and Kentucky Route 255 from the south. So pretty cool stuff. Mammoth Cave definitely has a lot of visitor stuff. If you want to look at the tours and stuff, the perfect website, of course, is the National Park website. So here it is. And I'm going to pin this comment for you. So if you guys want to check that out. So there's different cave tours you can visit, and of course you can go to recreation.gov to reserve your tickets. So you have all the different tours of each of the caves. So you can pick which certain parts of the cave you want to tour, accessible tour, obviously the historic tour is the most visited one. And for the historic tour, it's about 120 minutes, 2 miles distance. And for adults, it's about $24 for adults. But really neat. Plenty of cave tours. So really neat stuff, of course, here about the caves. So we're going to be driving to Louisville. We're not far from Clark State Forest, which is actually the biggest state forest in the state. So here we go. Oh man, really? Gold for Crystal Palace balls. Well, one of the interesting things about Mammoth Cave, of course, is of course the history of the park. So there is a lot about history here in the park. Human history in Mammoth Cave dates back 5,000 years. Several sets of Native American remains have been recovered from Mammoth Cave and or other nearby caves in the region, both during the 19th and 20th century. Most were mummies, representing examples of intentional burial with ample evidence of pre-Columbian funerary practice. The exception to that was found in 1935 when the remains of an adult male were found in a large boulder. As well. Of course, research also began in the late 50s by Patty Jo Watson to eliminate the lives of the archaic woodland peoples who explored and exploited the caves of the region. So they found all sorts of interesting stuff, of course. Now, the earliest written history of this cave, the 31,000 acre tract known as Poland Survey, was sold by indenture on 1795 by William Pollard. 19,000 acres of the survey between the North Bank and Bacon Creek Green River were purchased by Thomas Lane Jr., a British American merchant from Yorkshire, England, for about £4,116. And then the land was lost to a local county tax claim during the War of 1812. Legend has it that the first European to visit Mammoth Cave was either John Hochin or his brother Francis in 1797 while hunting. Hochin pursued a wounded bear to the cave's large entrance near the Green River. Some Hochin family tales have John Hochin discovered the cave, but this is extremely unlikely. Rather, his father, John, is the more likely candidate, but eventually found the cave entrance, and apparently they chased it to a cave, and all that sort of stuff, the local legends. The land containing this historic entrance was first surveyed in 1798. Under the name Valentine Simons, and he exploiting Mammoth Cave for its saltpeter reserves, which saltpeter was important for black powder, which was what powder made the firearms back in the old days, because they used to do a lot of firearms with black powder. Used to do that back in the day, of course. In partnership, Bounds and Son, various other individuals would own the land that throughout the War of 1812, when Mammoth Cave's saltpeter reserves became significant, because obviously, because of the Jefferson Embargo Act in 1807, which prohibited all foreign trade, so they had to actually get the saltpeter from Mammoth Cave. Of course, in 1812, the cave was purchased from Simone, from Simon and other owners by Charles Wilkins, an investor from Philadelphia, Hyman Gratz, and soon was being mined by calcium nitrate on an industrial scale. Of course, in the 1840s and 50s, one very important person actually did a lot of guiding the caves. Stephen Bishop. He was an African-American slave and a guide of the cave during the 1840s and 50s, and was one of the first people to make extensive maps of the cave. And he was the one who named many of the features here of Mammoth Cave. And he was one of the first people to map the cave. He was enslaved, of course. Of course, he passed away in 1857 after gaining his freedom. He was the one who needed many of the things here, of course. But very important guy, obviously, and he was a big part of helping to explore the cave. Stephen Bishop was introduced to a lot of the cave, of course, in 1838, and he discovered a lot of it, including the old cave and many of the points as well. Of course, during the later half in 1866, the first photos within the cave were taken by Charles Waldock, a photographer from Cincinnati, using a very dangerous method of flash photography called magnesium flash photography. Yes, they used magnesium to do a lot of the pictures back in the days. Throughout the 19th century, the fame of Mammoth Cave would grow so that the cave became an international sensation. It attracted writers including Robert Montgomery Bird, Alexander Clark Bullitt, Nathaniel Park Willis, who visited in 1852, Bayard Taylor, John Moore visited the cave, the guy who inspired national parks. And as a result of the growing renown of the cave, boasted many famous visitors. Edwin Booth, who, yes, his brother John Wilkes Booth assassinated Lincoln, singer Jenny Lind, and violinist Ole Bull were some of the famous visitors, of course, of the 19th century. So I got a new friend request. Yeah, be your friend. But very famous people did visit the cave. Now, in the 20th century, in 1906, Mammoth Cave became steamboat accessible when the construction of the Lock-in Dam at Brownsville, Kentucky. In 1908, Max Comper arrived at the cave in New York, and he did a lot of a steamboat and he did a lot of surveyed many meters of the cave and did new discoveries. And Comper also did a survey of the land surface overlying the cave, which would prove to be useful for opening other interests in the cave, including Violet City. Then you also have the Croghan family, of course, who also suppressed a lot of the elements of the map. But one very interesting thing was that during the 20th century, Floyd Collins, who was a well-known cave explorer, and he actually died in the park, spent 10 years exploring the Flint Ridge cave system. And he discovered Crystal Cave and Salt Cave before dying at Sand Cave, Kentucky in 1925, died of starvation. The attempts to rescue Collins created a mass media sensation. The resulting publicity would draw Kentuckians to make it a national park in 1941. And when the last of the Croghan hares died, Advocacy grew from among wealthy citizens for Kentucky to establish it as a national park back in 1924. And it took over a decade for it to finally be a national park. A lot of the land had to be gotten by eminent domain. And eventually, after many years of eminent domain and stuff, Mammoth Cave National Park was dedicated on July 1st, 1941 by President FDR. And by 1954, Mammoth Cave's land holdings encompassed all lands within the outer boundary, except for two privately held tracts, the old Lee Collins Farm, which has been obviously Collins Crystal Cave, and eventually, they did a Collins Cave expedition and drew public interest of Collins Cave, and it proved conclusive that the passages of Crystal Cave extend towards Mammoth Cave proper. And as a result, they did, and it was connected to with Unknown Cave, and as a result, their mobile expedition, the Crystal Cave property was sold to the National Park Service because of the connection. At the same time, the Great Onyx Cave property, the only remaining private in holding, was also purchased as well. So all this area around Mammoth Cave was now part of the National Park Service. In 1972, they also discovered during a cave trip deep within the Flint Ridge Cave system, Patricia Crowther crawled through a narrow canyon layer down the tight spots, which acted as a filter for the larger caves. And they discovered, and they found out that Hanson's Lost River, they found out that the Flint Cave connected directly to the Mammoth Cave system. And they found several more discoveries between Mammoth Cave and smaller caves or cave systems have followed, most notably to the Proctor Morrison Cave beneath Joppa Ridge in 1979. And Proctor Cave was discovered by Doyle, a Union Yard deserter. Then they found more into Ropel Cave, and of course, there's tons more discoveries coming soon within the next decades or so. So that's the history of Mammoth Cave National Park. Really fascinating story, obviously, of a really interesting park. So we're flying to my neck of the woods. I'm no live far from this neck of the woods. I'm around this area, right in my hometown. Obviously. So. So we're not far from Louisville. We're pretty close to our first stop. We're not very far away. Like I said, we do have some hilly parts here in the state, just not very big mountains, obviously, as you can tell. So we're getting near Louisville. You guys all probably know it from last Friday's trip. We went through Louisville, Kentucky, on our way to Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. So So we're about to enter our way into Louisville, Kentucky. In the distance, we have the city of Louisville in the distance. You can see downtown, obviously. Mm-hmm. So my neck of the woods. So we're going to go through into this area, obviously. So there is Louisville, Kentucky in the background. We're flying over Indiana University Southeast to our right, IU Southeast. That's where I went to college. There's Super Typhon. He's currently flying upside down, obviously. There is the extra. So, so here is Louisville, Kentucky, everyone, the largest city in the state, in the Bluegrass State. Very important area here. Here it is, Louisville. And you can see some of the buildings here. There's the KFC Yum Center. So, yeah, welcome to Louisville. Beautiful day, of course. There's Louisville Sanford. That's the UPS Worldport down over here. And yeah, there's Churchill Downs, the famous horse racing track, one of the symbols of the city. Hmm. So, we're getting ready to go down to our first stop. So, we're going to go ahead and make our first stop here at 73KY here at Brooks Field. So we'll make our first stop here. We'll talk about the last slide of Mammoth Cave on the way there. And then we'll talk about some of the other things we can do here at the park. So here we go. We're about to make our first landing of the day. We'll hopefully get this to be pretty smooth. So this is Jefferson Memorial Forest, and I think your airport's down in this valley. So we'll make a landing here pretty soon. So let's go ahead and get this landed and get going. We're going to go ahead and put the, once we get a little closer, we'll turn off the autopilot. Here we go. Oops. Pretty easy stop here in Kentucky. And we're going to park here for just a bit. We'll park here for about a minute or two. So we're here at 73KY Brooks Field. Really neat little airport right in the nestle, right in the hills of Kentucky. So we'll get ready for the next national park. Yep, and we're off. Up, 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 and away we go. And we're up we go. See, that's the thing about the bush planes that's nice, is they can take off in these short fields. They got high power weight ratios, so they can take off and land very easily out of this airport. So here it is, guys. We're going to climb up to 2,000 feet. So beautiful hillsides here in Kentucky, as you can definitely tell. Guy Slew's with us here as well. But very neat, though. We got some pretty beautiful hills here in Kentucky. So we're going to get through here. To our right, of course, is Fort Knox, and that is to our right. In the distance is Fort Knox. You guys all probably know Fort Knox is. Fort Knox, of course, is a well-known U.S. Army base here in Kentucky. Of course, it's right next to the Bullion Depository, which is the largest gold reserve, where a lot of the nation's gold reserves is at. But Fort Knox was also the major U.S. Army center and school. Mm. 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 So here we go, guys. We're now entering in. We're getting closer to Mammoth Cave. So we're gonna go ahead and turn left. So we're gonna now enter into the direction of Mammoth Cave. We're just 89 nautical miles from our final stop. So we're about to reach Mammoth Cave very shortly. We don't have to wait too much longer for that. Just 45 more nautical miles till we reach the entrance of Mammoth Cave. So that's where we're going here today. So our final slide for today is the biology and ecosystem of the cave. Yes, the Mammoth Cave has its own ecosystem. There are many different species living in this cave. Of course, bats are a very common species living in the cave, including the Indiana bat, gray bat, little brown bat, big brown bat, and tricolor bats are the species bats live in the cave. And the local bats are the Indiana bats, and these are the local bats of the area. Particularly in the southern and Midwest U.S. And they live mainly in the old grove, hardwood, and hardwood pine forests. And these little Indiana bats eat both terrestrial and aquatic flying insects like moths, beetles, mosquitoes, and midges. And they are endangered technically by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service due to the fact that, unfortunately for them, their endangered status is thanks to the fact of habitat decline, disturbance, pesticide use, and of course, right now, the rapid spread of white nose syndrome, which has hurt a lot of the bat species. So, pretty interesting stuff. In addition to bats, of course, there are other major animals here in the cave. Three different species of cave crickets, a cave beetle species, various species of fishing spiders, which they mainly use things out of the water. As a member of the cave salamanders, which are specifically adapted to living in caves. Two species of island's cave fish, which are made for the brackish waters of caves. Cave crayfish, and uniquely native to this area, the Kentucky cave shrimp, which is native to this cave. And of course, there's also a lot of fossils found in the cave. Crinoids, blastoids, and gastropods were found here. They even found a dozen species of sharks discovered in fossils. Exclusively from the cave. But lots of different unique wildlife and stuff. Which is native to this cave shrimp, which is pretty cool. Some really unique native animals here. See, there's the cave shrimp, the picture here. The little Kentucky cave shrimp. The little guy native to the species. These little cave shrimp have no pigment, and they mainly it is exclusively in the underground system of caves. And it mainly feeds on the sediments washed into the cave by the movement of groundwater. So, pretty neat little areas specifically for the caves. we're going to go ahead and continue on forward, of course. I think I need one more degree. So this is Elizabethtown, Kentucky. So we're in Elizabethtown. So that is the last slides for the national park. So in terms of other stuff going on here, according to the national park website, they have plenty of other things to do. Outside of the cave tours, there are caving, kayaking, boating opportunities around the Green River in the national park. And you can also fish here too. You can fish for muskies, bluegill, catfish, bass, perch, crappie, and other game fish across the Green Rivers. So you can visit each of the different rivers and stuff. So you could do some fishing stuff. It's a good place for fishing and all that too. Making it a solid national park for fishing. Of course, there's also hiking as well around the outside of the park. So there is some really neat hiking trails in the park, which is pretty neat in this area too. And of course, one other really cool thing you could do here at the park, you can do horseback riding, and yes, you can stargaze in this park. Because it's actually part of the National Dark Skies Park. Some pretty interesting stuff here, of course. So there's definitely some pretty neat stuff here in the park to do, of course. Mm. Mm. So pretty cool stuff here. So that's going to cover all the slides. So we have Super Typhon flying with us. He's behind us In the extra, look at him doing some formation flying, of course. So we're about to reach the entrance of beautiful Mammoth Cave National Park. According to the trails, the top one is the Green River Bluff, which is the top trail in the park. So we'll do some flying around here, of course. So pretty neat stuff, of course. So we're about to reach the entrance. So yeah, really cool stuff, guys. Very much interested in checking out Mammoth Cave. Absolutely interesting. So let's go. So Mammoth Cave is going to come up very soon. So we very excited. Look for it. 64 nautical miles to our final stop in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So I got some pretty important stuff to do afterwards, of course. Got a bit of a daily flight to do when I get done. So looking forward to getting this done. Here we go, guys. here we go. We're going to enter Mammoth Cave. So, around this area, obviously. Now, in terms of climate, though, some of the record, mainly the main daily maximum in the summer, like 96. In the wintertime, the cold you can get during the winter minimum is around 4 degrees Fahrenheit during the winter time. But mainly it gets around 30 in the winter time, and the daily mean is 79 degrees in the summer. But obviously it gets colder when you get into the caves, obviously. So, here we go. We're getting ready to enter Mammoth Cave. Of course, all this down here is the Green River, so we'll make our one and only bush landing here, right in the national park entrance. We'll make that our only landing of the day. It'll be our only bush landing for this trip, because, like I said, most of the national park is literally underground, so. Hmm. So, Mammoth Cave National Park, pretty cool. So let's see where we fly along. Beautiful scenery here today. We see some bits of the Green River down here. So here is Mammoth Cave. Beautiful national park. We'll turn left soon. We're into Cave City here in Kentucky. Cave City, of course, in Kentucky. And this is one of the main gateways to get to Mammoth Cave National Park. And apparently, this area is one of the gateways to the national park. Because it is close to Mammoth Cave, and as a result, a lot of tourists visit this city to get into Mammoth Cave National Park. Especially with railroad and stuff, back in the railroad days, with the Louisville National Railroad, many tourists would be into here, of course. So here's Cave City. Now we'll turn left. We'll turn right at me. Here it is, guys, Mammoth Cave. So we finally entered into the national park. So here we go. So, yep, here we are, guys. Mammoth Cave National Park. You're in Kentucky. So, we're officially in the national park. And I'm actually going to lower the altitude. We're going to actually be flying 1,500 feet. But we're about to. So, yeah, we're just going to go safely. And we're done. May not be the greatest landing, but this is the Mammoth Cave National Park entrance to the national park. So this is the national park entrance to Mammoth Cave. So here we are, Mammoth Cave Park entrance. Hey, good to see you, Shaq. Good to see you, my dude. I hope you're doing well. We're visiting Mammoth Cave National Park, so we just visited the entrance. Unfortunately, no other bushlands today. This would be our only GA bushland because the rest of it, the national park's underground. It's a cave, but we will fly over some of the other parts of the park. So, yeah, that is your national park entrance. Nearby is the lodge. Yes, there's a lodge at the park you can stay. So we're going to go ahead and prepare now to take off. So here we go. We're going to fly. We're going to just fly to 1,500 feet. So we have still plenty of height to get above. Still saving enough altitude, but still hot. Close enough to get to the ground. So we're just going to fly around the boundaries of the national park. So you can see all the different hills and stuff. So if you do the Blue River, you can actually kayak and canoe down the Blue River, the Green River, for some pretty scenic little fishing scenery here. So yeah, pretty scenic little area here in this part of Kentucky, of course. Pretty cool when we get to see these scenic rivers and stuff. Yeah, pretty scenic little area, so we can. But beautiful stuff here. Neat little national park area. That being said, if you want to see stunning national park action, um, so so now we'll be heading down through here, and we'll be exiting the national park, and then we'll be getting ready for the landing at Bowling Green. So, of course, as we say goodbye to Mammoth Cave, we'll be ready to go to Bowling Green, Kentucky. So here we go. We'll turn right. So here we are, guys. Bowling Green. Now, briefly about Bowling Green, Kentucky, and briefly about Bowling Green. Obviously, Bowling Green is Kentucky's third most populous city after Louisville, Lexington. And it was actually, nowadays, it's a mini manufacturing site, including General Motors, Spalding, and Fruit of the Loom. And mainly it's been assembling the Corvette since 1981, and that's where you can find the National Corvette Museum. And it's also the home of Western Kentucky University, the Hilltoppers. So here we go. Bowling Green is coming up soon. We'll land at Bowling Green Morgan County Airport. So here we go. No worries. Here we go. We're about to land here at the airport pretty shortly. Just 9 miles away, guys. So all thank you so much for being here. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. I hope you all have a great week and enjoy what the week has to offer. So here it is, guys. here we go. Runway 21 is going to be coming up. We're not far from the Corvette Museum and the National Corvette Museum track. So we should see the Corvettes. The new Corvette nowadays that's built in the factory, of course, is the brand new Chevy Corvette, the C8. Is a really neat sports car. The new Vet is one of the absolute nicest. The C8 is probably considered to be one of the greatest Corvettes ever. The first mid-engine Corvette produced in 2020. The C8, really special car, and it is, despite its low price point, the Corvette C8 is actually pretty nicely priced. You can get a C8 Corvette for around, I don't know, you can get them pretty much new from around under $60,000 for a brand new Corvette. And they built some new models, and the one that's going to be coming out soon, the ZR1X, is basically the most powerful Corvette ever. 1,250 horsepower, 0 to 60 under 2 seconds. It can pull one lateral G, built with masted pit wheel calipers, braking kit as well, and it set its Nürburgring lap time of 6:49.275, the fastest speed of the Nürburgring for an American production car. Though nowadays the GTT competition now put 6 minutes 40. But still, so pretty impressive little sports car. This Corvette is absolutely nuts. Which is actually insane, and that is going to come into sale for $200,000. Which, by the way, if you want to put that performance in comparison to other cars of its performance, for some of the other Ferraris on sale, if you were to grab a Ferrari of similar performance and similar speed for a Ferrari, let's say the 266 2GTB, which is probably, I don't think it's the similar. It'd probably be just as expensive, which means, yeah, you basically get, or a Lamborghini, actually. Yeah, which is insanely expensive, which is pretty insane. $200,000. But for that price, you have an absolutely insane performance. So there it is, guys, and that wraps up the stream. Thank you all so much for coming here today on this Sunday morning stream. So we will be back later. We'll be back on Friday for another of our game day flights. We'll be seeing you in Italia once again, and we're gonna go say hello to. We'll say hello to Kaharia. So we'll rate her channel here. So thank you all so much for coming here, and I really enjoyed all the flying, guys. This was a lot of fun. So let's go say hello to our good friend Gaharian. Take care, everyone, and have a great week. Goodbye, everyone. See you all soon.